Most people describe an awkward silence in conversation as nothing happening, an empty gap, a lull, an absence. Psychologically, that description is almost exactly backwards, and understanding why explains why even a few seconds of silence can feel so disproportionately uncomfortable. The empty gap analogy holds for silence in a context with no social stakes, sitting alone, silence during a solitary walk. In those settings, silence genuinely is close to neutral, low stimulation, and easy to tolerate. The analogy breaks completely in a live social conversation, though because of silence there isn't actually empty at all. It's dense with unspoken interpretation happening in real time on both sides. Is the other person bored, offended, thinking of how to exit, judging what was just said, deciding whether to change the subject? The silence itself contains no information, but your brain, uncomfortable with ambiguity, rushes to fill that absence of information with an interpretation, and that interpretation is very frequently negative, thanks to the same negativity bias covered earlier, which weights uncertain or ambiguous social signals toward threat rather than neutrality. This is compounded by research on conversational norms, which has found that the comfortable gap between one person finishing speaking and another responding is remarkably short, often measured in a fraction of a second across studied cultures and languages. A silence that clocks in at even 4 seconds, which feels unremarkable when you time it after the fact, can subjectively feel like it's stretched on far longer in the moment, precisely because your brain is actively working to interpret it rather than passively wading through it. Once the empty gap analogy is discarded, a better model emerges. Conversational silence functions more like a mirror than a void, similar to what we discussed with silence and anxiety generally, but specifically socially charged. Here it reflects back whatever social anxiety or uncertainty a person already carries into interactions. Someone with a generally secure sense of social standing tends to interpret a silence more neutrally or even comfortably, reading it as simply a natural pause. Someone with higher social anxiety tends to interpret the identical silence as evidence of judgment or disapproval, filling the exact same span of empty time with a considerably more threatening story. This explains why some people are visibly comfortable letting a conversation breathe, occasionally pausing without rushing to fill it, while others compulsively talk over any gap, even with filler that adds no real content, not because one group values silence more, but because one group's nervous system reads ambiguous silence as safe, and the other reads it as an active threat requiring immediate resolution. The practical reframe worth trying: the next time a silence starts to feel unbearable, rather than rushing to fill it, silently ask what specific story you're telling yourself about what the silence means, and notice that the silence itself is neutral, actually empty of any inherent meaning at all. The discomfort isn't coming from the silence. It's coming from the interpretation your own mind is actively, involuntarily generating to fill it, the same mechanism, just aimed at another person instead of at yourself. There's a specific practice worth trying for anyone who wants to build more tolerance for conversational silence over time, deliberately allowing a slightly longer pause than feels comfortable in low-stakes conversations, and simply observing what happens. In the overwhelming majority of cases, nothing happens. The other person doesn't interpret it as rejection or judgment. The conversation simply continues a beat later than it might have otherwise. Repeated exposure to this mismatch between the anticipated catastrophe and the actual, unremarkable outcome tends to recalibrate the underlying threat assessment over time, the same gradual, evidence-based updating process that applies to attachment patterns and fawn responses discussed elsewhere in this series.